Most reprinted game of the entire match. It was like a symphony of placid beauty.
Right on the first move, Bobby Fischer came up with a major surprise to the entire world. He almost always starts the game with moving the pawn in front of his king 2 pawns up with e4.
Что он был очень постоянен. Ел манную кашу и яйцо всмятку и чашку кофе, то он продолжал это в течение многих лет. То он из турнира в турнир продолжал это играть.
And in this game, everybody's shocked. He started with the English opening by playing c4. Spassky's preparation was out the window. I'm sure he prepared for many things, but not this.
Fischer did not play his usual game. He played a different kind of game, a placid, positional, slowly building up game, where he deprived Spassky of mobility, pushed him back where his pieces could not do anything.
It was just a beautiful game. I don't know what more can be said about it. It's just a model of precision.
It was such a beautiful game that when the crowd applauded at the end of the game, Spassky himself stood up and applauded Fischer.
On his way back to the hotel, Fischer said, "Did you see what Spassky did?" He said, "That's a sportsman. He's a real sportsman."
Game 21 reached move 40, the move at which the game was adjourned for the two players to go and study it.
This is NBC Nightly News, Friday, September 1st.
Good evening. We'll have more on the developments in the Watergate bugging case. We'll hear George McGovern talking about tightening up his campaign organization, and we'll have a look at the new unemployment figures. And first, Bobby Fischer. Today was the day when Fischer and the Russian champion, Boris Spassky, were to have finished the 21st game of the World Championship, a game they started yesterday. But Spassky, after what must have been an agonizing night spent analyzing his position, didn't even show up to play.
I was going to photograph Spassky in the morning. He come straight over to me, shook my hand and said, "There is another world champion. His name is Robert James Fischer." I went back to the loft later, to Bobby's room, and I told him Spassky just retired. And I want to be the first to congratulate you.
Congratulations. How you feel, babe? Tell us how you feel about it. You said you were going to do it. Listen, will you talk to us, Bobby? Bobby, roll the window down.
Bobby wanted to get away because they were banging on the door and all that. Just to beat it out into the hills. Someone brings up the New York Post. and it says, Bobby is the champ.
His mother had said to him when she saw she couldn't separate him from chess, she said, okay, go play chess. When that's over, you can start your life. You can do something important.
NBC News correspondent Dick Schaap was in Iceland today, and here's what Fischer said.
How does it feel now? You have the world championship. You're the best in the world at what you've devoted your life to. How does that feel inside?
Feels pretty good, yeah. I mean, my goal now is to play a lot more chess. I feel I haven't played enough chess.
How did it feel inside? All this between the mayor, or did you ever thought of anything like that?
No, I never, thought this was going to happen with chess. I just hope this keeps on.
I just had a premonition that something awful was going to happen to him. I didn't know what it would be, but I didn't feel good about it.
One of Fischer's problems was that after the match, he was supposedly better known by the population of the world than anyone except for Jesus Christ. And he was a guy who treasured his privacy. He had a problem.
The entire world knows the name Bobby Fischer by now. Was it a letdown after it was all over, Bobby? I mean, it was, well, there must have been a tremendous...
It was. I woke up the day after the thing was over, and I just felt different, like something had been taken out of me.
He didn't really, after he won, know what he wanted to do with his life. He reached an end point when he was 29.
He was 29 years old, and he hadn't had a childhood.
Well, is it not true that the chess masters are always young men, and that they don't last?
That's been true, generally speaking, but there are exceptions. Steinitz, who was 63 when he was world champion.
But you're in a fortunate position, because most of this in life, no matter how successful we think we are, we still have to do what other people want us to do, just to hold jobs. But you don't have to hold a job, or do. You're on your own. It's a unique position.
That's right. You can't say, well, if Fischer won't come, we'll get some other chess genius who's the best in the world.
Bobby Fischer, the world champion chess player, has until midnight tonight to decide whether to abide by the international rules of chess or give up his title. If Fischer defaults, the title would go to the challenger, Soviet Grandmaster Anatoly Karpov.
He wanted probably to play the kid from Russia, Karpov, and beat him. I mean, it would be an easy task. On the other hand, part of him knew he could lose, and that's death to Bobby. He didn't want to risk that. So what came out was a series of new demands on the rules.
First of all, I like to play matches without draws, and they're going to have to increase the prizes if they want me to play. Once I get the title, they want me to play a match for the title. I'm not going to just play for what their minimum prizes are.
Accepting all Fischer demands was unacceptable politically for the Soviet Chess Federation.
Barring a very unlikely last-minute change of heart by Fischer, Anatoly Karpov becomes the new champion by default.
The World Chess Party gave him about 95% of what he wanted. But that was it. He didn't defend his title.
непобедимости, и он не смог преодолеть самого себя.
I think he was unable to cope with his own invincibility.
Снова сесть за шахматную доску, не
He got more or less scared to sit down again in front of the board and risk losing.
взятую партию. В общем, не
But only he who never plays never loses.
We all felt disappointed that he'd let chess down, he'd let the American masters down. Yeah, we all felt kind of a betrayal.
Others could suffer from a period of creative depression after such debacle.
I went out to California on a job, phoned Bobby, picked him up in Pasadena, where he was staying, some cult place he was staying.
I've had so many bad experiences.
And he would talk about nuclear disarmament,
Shadow bombs
our capabilities, his ICBMs and that, you know. And that would go on for about an hour and a half.
Just what is the Worldwide Church of God?
Bobby had been involved with the Church of God since 1962. And after he won the championship, the church was providing him with a place.
The Worldwide Church of God was a group of people that believed in fundamental principles of the Bible. Some people would probably call us fundamentalists.
That will bring on the great tribulation, and that will end in the second coming of Christ, the end of this present civilization.
Basically, a sense that there was an impending coming Christ, and we need to prepare for that particular second coming.
I told him it's all a bunch of hooey, but that's what he chose to do.
I have warned you may be living in the time in which you will see.
I went to his apartment in Pasadena. It seemed to me pretty hopeless.
He was extremely depressed. We would get into these long discussions about the Bible. Why are we here? What are we doing here? What is life?
Power and strength under the beast.
That's when he started to go haywire.
He felt that he was being influenced by these Russians, and he also was scared of the Mossad, Israeli secret police.
This huge spy apparatus, which is not just a spy apparatus, they're actually making things happen.
He felt that he could be easily spied upon through radioactivity and through other means, fillings.
He thought maybe the Russians could set signals here.
Phones.
Tinfoil over the windows.
Media, radioactive. This is paranoia. We tried, as church members, to bring him in to a little more of a normal life.
I think he turned against the Worldwide Church of God when one of its prophecies patently did not come to pass.
That in the last days, at these times right now in which we're living, perilous times shall come.
Fischer felt betrayed. He wrote a pamphlet attacking the church and Armstrong, its leader, saying that nobody should ever control your mind.
I was never a member of the Church of God. Absolutely not true. It's a lie.
As he denied God, he began to get worse.
He started to go astray. He started reading the protocols of the Elders of Zion, which he mentioned to me, and I said, that book is a forgery, and it's a hoax, and it's a bit of anti-Semitic propaganda that even Hitler used.
Protocol number 1. What has restrained the wild beast we call men?
He got into all these doctrines.
What has influenced them heretofore?
The Illuminati, all these different people that were going to take over the world.
Protocol number 9. Merciless revenge and bitter hatred. From us emanates an all-embracing terror.
We began to see less of Bobby because we didn't want to expose our children to the famous uncle who's become fulminating anti-Semite.
Hitler said in Mein Kampf that the Jews are not the victims, but they're the victimizers.
We could be having dinner and he would suddenly start thinking about the Jews did this and the Jews did that, and in our house it was just unacceptable.
They're actually making things happen and causing revolutions and killing people all over the world. We start mixing fish with humans and anything's possible.
His mother was Jewish. His real father was Jewish. It's complete madness.
The question is, how could a Jewish kid become an anti-Semite? Paranoid psychosis, He had false fixed ideas of a very widening conspiracy against him. It was as if he were at war with himself.
He became a recluse. Fischer watchers refer to it as the wilderness years.
Where's Bobby these days?
Oh, Bobby's at home.
We're in New York.
Well, I don't think that I want to get onto the subject of Bobby. You know how Bobby feels about it.
Last conversation we had enraged him. If you don't play chess, there will soon come a time when no one will ask you to play chess. He thought that was unacceptable. And that was the end of our relationship.
If you look throughout history, there have been a disproportionate number of extremely talented chess players who've also had serious psychological issues.
You are putting yourself in a world that is infinite. It's abstract. You are, in essence, reshaping your mind. If you understand that in the first move of a chess game, each player has 20 possible moves. If you multiply 20 by 20, that means there are 400 different possible chess positions after the first move.
The tree becomes with a lot of branches, you know, that you start with one move, and on that one move there are several options. Then all of a sudden it becomes a jungle.
The number of all positions that theoretically can occur in the game of chess is something like 10 with 45 zeros. It's like the number of atoms in the solar system.
You're trying to anticipate what your opponent might do, and you don't know what he might do, so you're thinking of all the different possibilities. A good chess player is paranoid on the board, but then if you take that paranoia to real life, it doesn't play so well. You end up seeing your real world according to the confines of chess.
There were some that came to a sad end. I mean, we like to think that chess didn't cause that, but maybe it didn't.
An individual with an unbalanced tendency, by becoming a chess monomaniac, will throw himself over the brink.
Yeah, we have some examples where people of exceptional abilities were infected by this mental illness.
Viktor Korchnoi claimed to have played a match with a dead man. He even provided the moves.
Rubinstein.
Rubinstein jumped out the window because the fly was after him.
Wilhelm Steinitz.
Steinitz was in an institution.
Steinitz in late life thought he was playing chess by wireless with God Almighty, and had the better of God Almighty.
Carlos Torre took all his clothes off on a bus.
And the probably greatest name, the greatest impact on the game of chess in the 19th century belonged to an American player, Paul Morphy. Unfortunately, there's some resemblance with Fischer.
Paul Morphy was an American player who stunned the world with his chess play. And then at age 26, he wandered the streets aimlessly, he muttered to himself, he became a paranoid schizophrenic.
His tour in Europe in 1858, 1859 was one of the most unforgettable events in the history of chess. And then Morphy stopped playing chess.
There are many similarities between Morphy and Fischer.
People are always going to equate their names together.
They both gave up the game at the height of their powers.
And disappeared into a world of neurosis, of psychosis.
Where did Bobby Fischer go?
What happened to Bobby Fischer?
We spent countless hours prowling the streets where he's been known to roam, looking for him at chess clubs where he's been known to play, Ultimately, the Now investigation was successful. We found Bobby Fischer. The quest paid off.
In 1990, he shows up in Pasadena, a little on the heavy side. He's handing me this letter. Mr. Fischer, you are the Mozart of the chess world. I want you to get back into chess. Her name was Zita. I wonder what she looks like, Harry. All of a sudden, he's romantically entwined. She got him off all of his rationalizations why he couldn't play chess anymore. And she set up the tournament.
After many false alarms, it was a 19-year-old Hungarian chess player, Zita Reiksani, who brought Fischer back to chess.
Do you think he's still as handsome now?
What do you think? As a result of their meeting, Zita rushed off to arrange Bobby's comeback.
The chess world was shaken today with news that an old legend lives, apparently ready to risk himself in public again. Headlines around the world announced he'd signed a contract to play a rematch with his old Russian rival from Iceland, Boris Spassky.
I was in the chess world. Everybody's waiting for him to play for 20 years. I mean, month after month, year after year, there are these stories. He's negotiating this. You know, someone's trying to arrange this for him. He wouldn't play. Finally, he plays.
He was playing in Yugoslavia against Spassky. It was trumpeted as a return World Championship match.
This is a typical question from Mr. Roger Cohen of the New York Times. If you beat Spassky, would you go on to challenge Kasparov for the World Championship? Can he read what it says behind here?
The match took place in Yugoslavia during the middle of the Yugoslav war, and by participating, Fischer broke a UN-backed embargo.
The U.S. government sent him a letter and said, don't play. If you do, you're going to go to jail.
This is my reply to their order not to defend my title here. That's my answer.
The match of 92, in my view, had no chess relevance. They played a very decent chess, but it was chess of 1972.
It's like watching two old boxers come back into the ring for one last payday. A slightly sad affair where both players are clearly past their best. Both Fischer and Spassky are shadows of their former selves.
He won and won several $1 million, but was declared a criminal for having taken part in the match.
Today, a federal grand jury here in Washington charged Robert James Bobby Fischer with a criminal violation of the United States imposed sanctions on the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia. Fischer faces up to 10 years in prison, and the millions of dollars of proceeds of the chess match are forfeitable to the United States. Bobby Fischer, like anyone else, should be held accountable for his actions.
The cost was very high. I mean, he lost his country, he couldn't come back, he was indicted. A lot of people questioned the validity of this indictment, but it was a law, so Fischer broke the law.
He couldn't come back in the country. They were out to arrest him, so he became an expatriate.
They said if I return, I will be arrested, and if I'm convicted, it could be millions of dollars and 10 years in prison for playing chess, which is absurd, you know.
I saw him in Yugoslavia, but it was pointless. You know, he was gone. It was no longer a story.
I knew Zita. I knew her personally. And she was a nice girl, but who knows what he did there.
Joan had gone to Hungary in 1995 to visit Bobby when he was staying in Budapest. That's the last of our family who'd seen him. Regina died in '96, and My wife Joan died in 1998 from a cerebral hemorrhage, no forewarning at all. Died within a half a day.
It was a tragedy. His mother dies, his sister dies.
Bobby was stripped of any family support that he could hope for. And when he was a man without a country, he got worse and worse.
我们来看这条震惊世界的消息。北京时间今天晚上8点30分左右。
This is all wonderful news. It's time for the fucking U.S. to get their heads kicked in. It's time to finish off the U.S. once and for all. This just shows you that what goes around comes around, even for the United States.
He felt that he was above politics and could say whatever he wanted to say, and George Bush says, "No, you're not. I can grab you wherever you are."
United States citizen Robert Bobby Fischer has been detained by Japanese authorities on alleged immigration law violations.
I got a collect phone call from Japan. From who I said, or she said, Bobby Fischer. 22 years, I haven't heard from him, not anything. But he must have kept me in the drawer or something, so I was not completely forgotten when he needed me. And I went to Japan to get this man out of jail. When I saw him there, that was on his birthday. He asked me if I could help him out, you know. I said, I will see what I can do.
Yfirmaðurinn hann segir það að Bobby Fischer hann yrði leystur úr haldi til land sem reiðubúið þess að veita honum ríkisfang.
Iceland has stood up and offered him residency. Iceland has stood up and given him passport. At the end, we, this small nation of 300,000 people, intervened and went against the United States and Japan, the two strongest economies in the world, and got him to Iceland.
Þarna örþreyttur Bobby Fischer borð ásamt vinnustöðsynni og föruneyti eins og Páll Magnússon sagði. Hann verður flaut. Welcome to Iceland, Mr. Fischer. How does it feel to be home?
Great.
You're getting quite a hero's welcome. Did you expect this?
No, I didn't.
We've got a car waiting. This is your first time in Iceland in quite a few years. You weren't that thrilled the first time around. Think it will be better this time?
That is not true. I never... You mean I didn't want to play here originally?
Yeah.
I'll explain all that. That was all a CIA setup. I'll explain that someday.
We look forward to that. Bobby Fischer, welcome to Iceland and thanks for talking to us. Have a good night. Bobby Fischer er fyrir Íslandi og hefur ekki mótið þessu.
Sorry for keeping you waiting.
How does it feel to be a free person?
Oh, it feels great. You got a wonderful country, wonderful fresh air, very fine people, excellent food, plenty of room.
What's next, Bobby?
I still want to do a book showing how the 1984-85 Karpov-Kasparov match was prearranged, move by move. They're all saying, oh, Fischer didn't write the book he said he was going to write. Yeah, but they don't say that they stole all my file on it. They don't say they stole several big moving boxes full of books that took me years to accumulate. What is your name?
Jeremy.
Jeremy what?
Schaap.
Your father was Dick Schaap, you were telling me last night?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I knew him, yeah. He rapped me very hard. He said, I don't have a sane bone in my body. I didn't forget that. His father, many, many years ago, befriended me. took me out to see, I don't remember what.
Knicks games.
Knicks games, and
you were 12.
Acted kind of like a father figure. And then later, like a typical Jewish snake, he had the most vicious things to say about me.
I have to object.
Okay. So, did you read the article where he said I don't have a sane bone in my body?
Honestly, I'm not sure if I read it, but I know that he said it.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't know that you've done much here today, really, to disprove anything he said.
I met Bobby after he came to Iceland. His existence was a very lonely one. He gradually, in Iceland like everywhere else, he alienated people with his behavior.
I had one huge safe.
We just walked around the pond downtown Reykjavík, and we talked and we had coffee together, and then I met him a few times when I ran into him on restaurants, etc.
The U.S. didn't give a damn what their opinions were anymore. Their role was over. Now the bomb belonged to the government. You understand?
This is.
And they were shocked. They didn't believe it.
Listen to me. If we are going to have a fucking conversation, polite, then this cannot be a monologue. He could not tear himself from the topic of the evil nature of the Jews and the evil nature of the United States or the evil nature of nuclear power. He talked about this relentlessly, and you really couldn't pull him out of that discussion. It was not just that he was talking about it. It was also the obsessive, compulsive nature of the discussion. The relentless nature of it.
You don't see how fucked up the world is. That's a form of insanity.
The last time I ran into him, I turned him away from my table because I had gotten enough of him. Most of us think within relatively narrow boundaries. But occasional individuals manage to get outside of the box. Those are the people who make new discoveries. Those are the creative people. But occasionally, it is difficult to get back into the box.
When the king moves, takes the queen.
His genius.
Gonna stick a knight here.
And his illness are joined at the hip.
Now I took the rook.
I don't think that Bobby could have been as creative, as extraordinary, without being extraordinary in other aspects. And that aspect we call a disease.
So the whole game's collapsing here, we resigned.
I don't consider myself to be a genius at chess. I consider myself more to be a genius who just happens to play chess. You understand? So I could be doing I could have done and I can do any number of other things, you know? You know, I always wanted to write some songs. I was telling Evans, Larry Evans, this was back in the 60s, I remember. I said, you know, I listened to all these songs, I wish I could write that, but I try to write something, I try to think of something, and I just, nothing comes out. And he says, yeah, because you haven't lived. He says, and I started thinking about it, he's right. My test library, all my other regular library, all my personal correspondence, all my chess sets, all kind of stuff, everything is stolen, everything, all my chess library.
He died from his psychiatric illness. He did not want to accept treatment for benign prostatic hypertrophy.
He refused dialysis, I understand. Probably could have prolonged his life if he'd taken it.
I was able to get him a photograph of Regina and Joan to have with him, which is what he had with him in the hospital when he died.
Reportedly, Fischer's last words were, "Nothing is so healing as the human touch."
The former world champion of chess, Bobby Fischer, has died. His career reached its height during matches with his nemesis, Boris Spassky, back in 1972.
American chess superstar Bobby Fischer has just died.
Former world chess champion Bobby Fischer has died. Considered by many as the greatest chess player of all time.
Bobby Fischer dead at the age of 64.
just his games. That's his monument. His games.
If you love an art, let's say you love painting, imagine if Picasso had died after only 5 years of work, and all the rest of his works had never appeared. This was a tragedy for the whole chess world.
He did it all by himself. He penetrated the secrets of chess in this shabby Brooklyn apartment. He was the best player who ever lived.
Bobby Fischer, sound roll 3. Right. Speed. And Bobby, you've been playing this game since you were 6 years old and playing it very seriously shortly after the age of 6. Did all this concentration to the exclusion of other activities, did this bother you? Do you think this deprived you of anything growing up?
Maybe, yeah, to some extent, yeah.
Like what?
Well, it would have been better, you know, a little more balanced, yeah. And maybe, you know, a little more rounded, you know, but what can you do?
In New York City, summer sweat, and the boys are rolling their cigarettes. The girls are singing into their phones, but Bobby Fischer is all alone. The parks are buzzing with the birds and the bees. Friends are hugging in 2s and 3s. Lovers are kissing and exchanging their rings, but Bobby Fischer's playing 18 kings. They're screaming and crying at the YMCA. Bobby, Bobby, why'd you go away? His mother is whispering wide and low. Bobby, Bobby, where did you go? Newspapers roll all over the town, from the glistening sky tops to the filth on the ground. They bang and explode all over Times Square. Bobby is gone and no one knows where. Is he in London? Is he in Spain? Has he cut off his hair? Has he changed his last name? Is he under that rock? Is he behind that tree? Oh, Bobby, Bobby, where can you be?